Hello and welcome to the Unblocked Podcast Network. I'm Coach Fred Riley along with Brian Godfrey and our special guest, the Crestline Comet, Rocky Alt from Crestline, Ohio. Welcome, Coach Alt. We're glad to have you here. Our show is brought to you by Osteo Strong. Better bone health is better. You need it when you get older. Strong bones will help you get around and get around better. Our mantra, our heart here, and I'm going to read it so I'll make sure I get it right in the podcast. Unblocked, a synonym for free. A coach designs a scheme to free up defenders or unblocked defenders. Our Lord's design was to free us from our sins and create an unblocked path to God. That is why we call our podcast the Unblocked Podcast. And faith, family, football, and other sports as we're growing. But emphasis tonight is on faith and family and football with our special guest, Rocky. Rocky, thanks so much for being with us. Brian's told me so much about you. I've gone back and read a little bit, read your bio from your high school days all the way to being in the Hall of Fame where you played college ball, an outstanding career. Now, you were a quarterback, correct?
I was a quarterback.
Okay,
one of the
so
top
what kind
five,
of offense did
when
you were the Comet? What kind of offense did y'all run back in the day?
Back in the day, it wasn't any run and shoot type stuff. It was the I formation. All right, one tight end, a split end, and a flanker. We called it a pro set.
Gotcha.
We might have sometimes got in a slot. We might have sometimes went to split backs. We might have sometimes went to the power I, but it was not an offense that afforded the passing game.
Right. So in today's world, they would call it 21 personnel, and obviously if you're called Comet, it's probably not because of your of the passing game. It's probably, I would figure, it's because you broke a lot of long runs. Were y'all an option team? How'd you make the ball move?
Coach Riley, it was not my legs that got me there. It was my arm that got me there. I could throw. I couldn't run. This is a funny question because we were, previous to where we're going on the air here, we played Ashland University. And Ashland, when I was growing up, and Brian knows this, is only about 30 miles away from my hometown of Crestline, where Wittenberg was about 100 miles away. But anyway, my coach, Dave Maurer, who's in the College Football Hall of Fame, we were playing Ashland University. We were on our 40-yard line. It was 4th and 1. And we had a few option plays in our package, but not many. So 4th and 1, Dave Maurer calls 37. Back in those days, 37 was a fullback off tackle, which was an Ohio State Woody Hayes type deal.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so I pivoted. I reverse pivoted out of there, and our fullback, he got ahead of me. So obviously, I missed the handoff. So, but when we practiced, we had 37 options. So the tailback, he carried out his assignment, and I come around the end, and there was only one person between me and the goal line, and that was the corner. But the corner ran up and covered our running back because that was his responsibility, right? I didn't see a safety. Everybody had pounded the line of scrimmage to stop the fullback. I ran 45 yards for a touchdown. It was the longest run I ever made in my life. How fast I did it in, I can't answer you.
Well, I'll tie a story together for you there. I was quarterbacking at the University of North Alabama in the Division II playoffs in 1980. We were playing in the semis against Eastern Illinois, and we're playing in Florence. And the first play of the game, we had an inside veer play called into the boundary, and I wrote it in there, and the whole world tackled the dive. and I came out of there with it and go 63 yards for a touchdown, in which my friends still say it was the longest run they had ever seen, not in terms of yards, but how long it took for me to score.
Yeah.
Riley's at the 40.
And
He's
they
at
said
the 45. It was that kind of
and they said to me, that was a great call. And I ran over the sideline, and Dave Maurer said to me, what the heck happened? And I says, Coach, I missed the handoff. He goes, great job. So we end up beating Ashland 14-7. It was 7-7 at that time in the fourth quarter.
Now, Coach, where did you get your degree in?
Got my degree in education because growing up, Coach Riley, I always wanted to be a coach.
Okay.
And Brian can attest to this too. In our hometown of Crestline, Ohio, that's what you became, because there was an older gentleman who coached by the name of Merle Hudson, and he played at Heidelberg, and he coached there, and everybody looked up to him. Everybody just admired what he did. He did everything. He coached football. He had summer league baseball. You were always around the guy. He used to go down at Kelly Park in the morning on Saturday morning, and like at 9 o'clock, and hey, he was like the Pied Piper, man. Kids were just following him down to Kelly Park. And we just and he stood behind the pitcher. He umpired, coached and umpired. He stood behind the pitcher. You know what I'm saying? I remember another time, pitcher threw the ball to me. It bounced. It bounced midway between the pitching mound and the home plate, and I hit the ball. And he had a deep voice. He goes, "You can't do that." You know? And I don't know if you could or not. To this day, I don't know if that's legal or not. But anyway, he was a great guy. So that's why I went into coaching. And Mike Godfrey and the Harbaughs and everybody there went into coaching, it seemed like.
Well, now tell us a little bit more about your coaching career and how all that transpired, and where you coached, and a couple of stories tied into that.
One thing is, I went to Wittenberg and played, and then I went to Bowling Green State University. I was a GA for Don Nalen. Don Nalen was a great coach. I love Don Nalen. Okay. And then after that, Mike Godfrey, of course, called me after I graduated with my master's, and I coached at Struthers High School with Mike. All right. And at Struthers High School, our first year, we were 8-2, and we beat Mooney. And there was a guy by the name of Ted Bell at Cardinal Mooney. Ted Bell was the best running back in the state of Ohio. But somehow, some way, we played well enough to beat them 21-20. Okay? And it was historic for us. And then after that, I left and I went to Marshall University. The guy there was Jack Langle. Jack Langle.
Right.
Okay.
We were Marshall.
Yep. That's right. Who coached at Worcester when I played, called me and says, "Can you come down here?" And I went down there and he hired me. And you know what? I remember him saying to us one day, "You know what? They're going to make a movie out of this. I thought to myself, "Coach, you're exaggerating a little bit, I think. I think you're exaggerating." Lo and behold, years later, they made, like you say, We Are Marshall. So from Marshall, Jack got fired. And like you say, you got to scramble a little bit. So I went to a high school, coached in Hamilton, Ohio for a couple years, then went back to my alma mater, Wittenberg, and then Ray Dempsey called me from Southern Illinois. So I went to Southern. And I coached, Morehead State, because I coached at Morehead State in Kentucky. I coached at Northern Illinois later on, Illinois. I coached at Kansas. All right. I went and spent 5 years at the University of Hawaii coaching. All right. I played with a guy by the name of Bob Wagner at Wittenberg, and he was the head coach, and he hired me out there. And I thought to myself, when am I ever going to get a chance to go to Hawaii free
Sure.
and spend some time there, right? And he was a friend of mine, and I loved it. So I spent 5 years in Hawaii. And then I got fired, and that's when I went to Northern Illinois. Okay, spent 5 years there. And the thing about Wagner, he just passed away a week ago, which is so sad to me. He had a home on the Big Island.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the volcanoes are,
Right.
excuse me, and not very many people there. But so he passed away, and they're going to have something for him here in early January, I think. But then I went back to Otterbein University here in Columbus and coached for 2 years, got fired. All right. And then Mike Godfrey called me again. He says, hey, do you want to, he had this organization called Team Focus. And I said, I'd love to. So I worked for him for 20 years with Team Focus. So I've been a lot of places, seen a lot of things. Football has changed drastically since I coached in the last 20 years. But it's been, Coach Riley, it's been a great ride. And you know, in coaching, man, but the sad part is you have to lose sometimes. Sometimes you have to lose a lot of times, and that's no fun.
That is very true.
But it's a great experience with the guys and the camaraderie there is. It's just, PJ Fleck at Minnesota. PJ was on our team at Northern Illinois. PJ was the type of guy, he'd come in there, and we had those camps back then, and we kind of looked at him to see if we're going to recruit him. He'd come in there, he's about 5'9". If you stretched him, he was about 185 pounds. He was pretty quick. Maybe at that time 4'7", something like that.
Right.
And Coach Novak, we had a recruiting meeting. He says, "Hey, we're scholarshiping PJ Fleck," and everybody kind of looked at him, and he goes, "I don't give a damn. That's my one recruit." Hey, the kid ended up playing and doing a great job, and you can see, went to Ohio State as a GA, then went to Western Michigan, did a great job there, then he went to Minnesota. I mean, he's just a great guy. I love him.
Well, everybody's story, and I do a Tuesday night podcast in which I just do one-on-one interviews with coaches and let them tell their story. And everybody that coaches always has somebody that lit that fire at some point in time that said, I want to make people feel the way this man makes me feel. I want to be that. And then if they have a solid career, it's because of the people that they end up aligning themselves with. And if you're fortunate enough to get aligned with really, really good people, you can have a wonderful career. Or if not, you end up being a car salesman, or whatever it is you end up having to choose in life, because you'll dead end it pretty quickly if you don't have good people to be aligned with. And your story is exactly that. It's the same thing I hear every Tuesday. I mean, the wonderful people that got people that lit that fire to coach, and then the wonderful people that helped them along the way stay in it, even being fired numerous times. There's there's staff meeting rooms where you love each other, fist fight one another, and then walk out of there, all on the same page. There's just nothing quite like them.
Coach, you talked about Don Nehlen, and Rocky brought him up. And when he was at Michigan, Jack Harbaugh tells a great story. I'm not going to try and top Jack, but Don Nehlen came in and he asked Jack, he said, "Is it like this every day?" And Jack said, "Every single day," because it was a fire the offensive coordinator, fire this guy, everybody's fired. And Bo liked that. He liked the conflict. And Don Nehlen, I think he lasted 3 or 4 years at Michigan staff and then went to West Virginia and did very well there. So, but when you brought up Don Nehlen, and I can't do the Jack Harbaugh stories, but maybe we can have him on one day and he can tell it. So.
Oh, Don, yeah, I mean, go ahead, Coach.
Don was a very personable guy too. And I remember when he went to Michigan as an assistant coach, he coached the quarterbacks, I think. I'm not sure about that. But he called me when I was at Northern Illinois. And he says, Rocky, I got a quarterback coaching job open. Are you interested? I says, Coach, how long are you going to be there? He goes, I can't answer that. And that told me right away, I'd have loved to have done that, but it had been another move and then another time when he resigned, because he resigned the next year. But there was rumors flying around that he wasn't going to do that. He was getting older. There was rumors floating around that was going to happen, So because you move around so much and you can, and the retirement thing's another thing. You go from this place retirement to that place retirement to this place, and you never have a nice little retirement. It's
right.
tough.
Well, you have to take your retirement money with you to pay for the move to where you're going next.
Exactly.
And the U-Haul.
You ain't got no exactly.
Exactly.
I burned. That retirement money went into U-Hauls.
Yep.
And down payments on the next house or upfront rent on the next apartment. That stuff's gone in a hurry. No, and then you hear you got high school guys who get 25 years in at 47 years old, and then go to another state and work 10 years, and then go to a private school and work 10, I know I have good friends who did that, and there's all kinds of ways to skin that cat. I'm lucky that I married a great woman who makes a lot of money, and to supplement my retirement.
Yeah. Brian, anything else we can talk about, or Coach, you got anything else you want to talk about?
I will say this, Coach.
I want to hear about Team Focus. And your involvement there, and that 20 years of your life, in something that's all about mentoring and helping and developing underprivileged kids. Most of the jobs I coached in were those kind of kids. Always had a heart for those kind of kids. Me and Susan had one live with us one summer because he was out of his house, and so we have that same heart. Tell us a little bit about that and that story.
When Mike called me to help him with Team Focus, he started this organization that took fatherless young men, and how we defined that fatherless was no male figure in the household. Okay. And we're a Christian organization. So we took that to mean no live-in boyfriends. All right. There can't be any male figure in the household who is not connected to the family. And we started out at one time ages 8 to 18. And then after a couple of years, we thought to ourselves, those 8-year-olds, man, they're all over the place. It's not their own fault, but they're all over the place. And so we changed it to 10 through 18, and that's the way it stands today, 10 through 18. We have them do an application. We take them to a camp. Our camp has been in Ohio for 20 years at Ashland University. And that Ashland is right in the midpoint of Northern Ohio. And so our young men come from Columbus to Cleveland to Youngstown to Toledo. That's how they come. And how do we get them? Word of mouth, schools, coaches. That's how we get them. And they got to fill out the application, and we got to check it to see if there's a male figure in the household who, hey, this is Bobby Jones, and all of a sudden I see Mike Jacobs' name on the application, and it says relationship, and it says boyfriend. So we unfortunately, we have to turn that young man down. We do take foster children. So if a young man is in foster care. There might be, and it probably is a father and a mother there that took him in. But that kid can go from that household to another household to another. We had a young man in the state of Kentucky who was 17 years old, and I'm telling you, he was a great kid. He had 17 foster homes. So that means in those 17 years, either he moved every year or stayed 2 years here and then went 6 months here or whatever. But he was in 17 foster homes. And like I said, what a great young man he was. And I felt sorry for him. I really did. And then besides the camp, and here's what we teach the camp. We teach manners, phone manners, dining manners. Now we have to teach internet manners, what's dangerous, what's not, how to handle yourself on there. Don't reply to this, all that stuff. And we have Bible study every morning. That's the first thing we do. We have Bible study, and they get up at 6:45. And Coach Riley and Brian, it's regimented. If you ever saw our schedule, it is regimented. It is boom, 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 from 6:45 all the way to 10:30 at night. And we get them up, and they go to bed. We go to Bible study. We go have breakfast. We might have a speaker. We might have an activity. We play sports. We play basketball. We play softball. We play kickball. We go fishing. We go bowling. We have business interviews where those young men have to interview, and we do them by age. They have to interview with a businessman. Okay, he picks a winner. We might have 6 or 7 groups, and then we take all the winners at the end, and they interview in front of everybody. And then we pick a winner. And so it's exciting like that. They like that. And we've had numerous young men come back and say, you know what? I had an interview with a guy at Walmart today. And actually, it was a girl. She said, a woman says, I had an interview with a woman at Walmart. And when she came in, I was sitting down and I got up and I went behind her and she sat down and I pushed her chair in. When she was through, I got up, I went behind her and I slipped the chair out behind her so she could get up. And he goes, I kind of think that's what really got me the job. And so we teach them how to do it, how to handshake, how to look people in the eye when they're talking to them. And they enjoy it. We have fun too. I mean, we just don't. But what I mean regimented, I mean it's time. It's timed. You're on time for everything.
All of those skills being, I mean, in order to be successful, those are skills you have to master. I mean, and we, I know when all the kids, when we at Davidson, we had 76 kids on college scholarships over the years, and to talk to them about how to shake that coach's hand, how to look that coach in the eye, yes sir, no sir, don't mumble, teaching them how to tie ties. I mean, just all those things that down the road, that you hope that we just become innate part of their personalities. And they really don't even remember where they got it from. It just becomes who they are. And God bless you. I know y'all done a great job. I worked a camp down here years ago that we had over at South Alabama. That was all the team focused kids came out one day, and we did about a 4-hour camp. And that was and it was about 100 degrees. And I thought I was going to die. And it was organized chaos at the best that day. And because they at that point in time, like I said, they really didn't want to go from drill to drill to drill. They wanted to play.
Yep.
They got out there. They wanted to play ball. Let's get to the 7-on-7 games. Let's go play. And I can't say that I blamed them. I sort of ready to go play too. Brian, you got something, Brian?
Rocky, and I'll tell Coach this, and Rocky knows this. There are two things that are discussed at the Vets in Crestline, Ohio, and the Eagles in Crestline, Ohio, and it's a top 5 ranking, and it's quarterbacks are one of them. My dad always put Rocky at number 2. I'm not going to give you the rest of the list or my list because I was unfortunate and never got to see him play. I can compare stats, that's the only thing that I can do. But and then the other top 5 is Euchre, and Rocky gets thrown under the bus on the Euchre rankings. But talk to us about going back to Crestline, Ohio with Mike, playing Euchre. Any good stories there, or who your top 3 Euchre players are? Because there's a lot of people that are self-admitted in that top 3.
Brian, we have in the great city of Crestline a Euchre Hall of Fame. All right. So I would have to rank people that I've played with. I played with Charles French. We call him Frenchie. Frenchie's now in his 80s, but he is a masterful player. Okay, so I would probably say he's definitely in the Hall of Fame. I would put your uncle Mike Godfrey in the Hall of Fame. Okay, now after that, I don't know. I played with Jim Harbaugh one time. But he's so doggone competitive. Holy cow. I was kind of intimidated sitting there next to him, but he's a good player.
Jerry and Dad were not beaten too much. And I mean, I witnessed that growing up. There were very few times that I remember either one of those losing.
And what I wanted to say a little bit earlier was the fact that, besides everybody in the city of Crestline playing football, we were a great baseball city too. We played a lot of baseball, and I played with Brian's dad, and we were pretty doggone good when he played. So it was a great city. I'm going to tell you one more story because I gotta stop. Mike introduced me to Pete Rose years back. So I've been out at Las Vegas and talked to Pete Rose 4 or 5 times. So I'm talking to Pete Rose, and I says, Pete, tell me a little bit about your childhood, would you? He goes, well, I grew up in a little town. I grew up in Cincinnati, but a little suburb. And I'm trying to think what it was now, and I can't remember. But he says, my dad was a coach, and he also worked, but he was a coach. And I was like the water boy. I went over there and took care of the water and stuff like that when I was real young. He said, and then it would be when it became age for me to play Little League ball, he said he grabbed me by the neck, and he says, took me to the coach, and he says, this is my son, Pete. I want him to play for you, and he will never miss a game. He will never miss a practice. I guarantee you. And then Pete told us one time he went into second base, and he kind of, it was like a double, a single, but it was a safe single where he's running from first, and he didn't have to really hustle to get to second. He was all right. So he kind of slowed up a little bit. And he said, after the game, I come out of the locker room, and he said, I saw my dad there. And my dad didn't generally stick around for the post-game stuff. So I walked up to him and says, Dad, how you doing? He goes, hey, don't you ever not hustle. You embarrass me, you embarrass the Rose family, and you embarrass the Reds organization. I don't want to see that anymore. And left. Hey, what does Pete Rose do? He sprints down to first base on a walk. He sprints down to first base on a hit by the ball.
And he's coming to Ontario, isn't he?
He is. He's
for
coming
a baseball. I read that today.
Yeah, November 4th, he's coming. Here's one thing I learned from him. And I spoke to the Crestline High School football team. I says, hey, probably none of you heard of Pete Rose. One guy raised his hand. But I told him, you go to practice, you play as hard as you can. And what I learned from Pete Rose was he was just an everyday kid from down in Cincinnati that worked so hard, he became the greatest hitter in the history of baseball. You never know if you can do that until you try.
Well, great story. I mean, Pete Rose. That's. I mean, I'm thinking the whole time. I'm thinking Charlie Hustle. I mean, and you're basically telling where he was told to hustle, and where that fundamentally came from. Now I know we got to go to some other stuff and start talking NFL and college, but most of my family, people that do this, that listen to the podcast, they listen to it and they'll ask me questions, and I know that they're going to ask me this question. What in the world is euchre? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Euchre,
I know nobody in my family knows what I thought you were talking about the Bob Euchre Hall of Fame.
It's a Yankee card game, and I'll let Rocky describe it.
I don't know if it's a Yankee card game.
Well, it's a Michigan, Ohio. If you say euchre to anybody in Michigan or Ohio, they either can play.
Card deck. I mean, that's what you play.
They either can play or they can't play.
Yeah, euchre is played with a just the nines through aces. All right, 24 cards. All right, 4 suits, 24 cards. And it's in my family. Everybody plays it. If you wouldn't be in my family if you couldn't play euchre. And that's the same thing. Brian will attest to this. If you're in Crestline, everybody plays euchre. It's just, it's a great. I went to college. I went to college and they played double bid euchre, which I had never heard of till I got there. But I kind of like that game. It's played with a pinochle deck. So you got 2 jack of spades and 2 jack of hearts and 2 jack of diamonds, etc. But the first one that goes is played is the top one. Because I said, trying to figure out that.
I know all the coaches that watch this show that I know and love, all my family that watch this show would have, if I hadn't asked that question, they would have been just like me. I wouldn't have had an answer. What is euchre?
Coach Riley,
they heard it for themselves.
They would not know how to spell it. You ask them how to spell euchre.
Yeah.
Coach,
you want to take the spell?
With a U, euchre.
It basically says online that it started in Canada and played in the Midwest. So I mean, I think we pretty much covered that.
I think everybody has the gist of euchre. Where are we going now, Brian?
Let's go to our one things, and then we can do top 5 after that, if that's all right.
Very good. Why don't you go ahead, Brian, with yours?
I was going to have an NFL one talking about tanking, and I'll go over that later, and trading quarterbacks. There were a lot of rumors on the X today and on social media. But the news of the day really came out of Clemson, and Clemson, they're really making a lot of waves with the ACC, and they pretty much said Clemson, North Carolina, and FSU, which we kind of knew, we're looking to get out and go to the Big Ten. And then there's a 4th mystery school. I've tried all day, everybody that I know in the ACC, to figure out whether that's Virginia, whether that's Miami. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. And the thing is, at Florida State, it's a whole lot different. There's no talk, really. Now, there's War Chant, and there's a guy named Regal that posted something today. I just hadn't had a chance to read it. But loose lips sink ships, right, Rocky?
That's right.
And Clemson's over here doing this, and Florida State's just, and I'm a big fan of Michael Alford, the AD down at Florida State. We have a lot of mutual friends, but we'll see what happens out of that. But that's kind of my one thing, because it kind of took off today about 7:30 this morning, and people are still talking about it. So, I mean, to go 12 hours now.
So. One is, and I decided to do this because there are 3 of us on the show the impact of Christian quarterbacks on the NFL. And how many teams, I mean, literally 3/4 of the teams in the NFL's quarterbacks are Christians. And the impact that, I mean, so they recognize the impact those guys have on the locker room, the fact that those guys are not going to embarrass the organization, the impact that how guys like that can handle getting beaten and handle adversity and handle all the things that come with it and come back the next day because there's something out there bigger than themselves that they're a part of. And just, you know, the fact that we had 3 quarterbacks on tonight, I thought that would, and 3 Christian quarterbacks, that I decided that was my one thing.
One that wasn't very good, and then you two. So
good's a relative term. We could have found a level for you to play at, Brian. We just don't know. It's sort of like euchre. We haven't heard of it yet.
I peaked around 8th or 9th grade. I never grew anymore, and I never got any faster. I didn't get a whole lot slower either, but you know, I played with a lot of good athletes, just like Rocky did. So.
All right, if I can tell you my one thing, as I was looking around and reading today, you know, Stoops at Kentucky's doing a fabulous job. I mean, I really hope and pray that they do well. I would love to see them make it to the playoffs. Can they? I don't know yet. They got a tough road to go, but I would love to see them make it. But he made a statement today about Georgia, who, you know, that probably is the consensus #1 team in the country. But he made a statement. He says, Georgia has the best athletes money can buy. All right. And when they said money, they had NIL in there, which is name, image, and likeness, meaning that those guys, Georgia has somehow gathered money up, and it's not the coaches that do this either, have gathered this money up, and they're giving these people money for their advertisement dollars, for their images that they post, for their names that go out there. And I live in Columbus, so on our TV stations, they're plastered all over there. You know, I don't see McCord's name up there yet. So, but anyway,
I just read this to you just to back up what you're saying. UGA spent $1.5 million more on recruiting than any other school in the SEC last year. UGA also spent $300,000 more last year alone on recruiting than Kentucky has spent in the last 5 years combined. So maybe he's got a point.
Well, you know, that's recruiting, and that's a little bit different than NIL because NIL is just giving money.
But he's talking he needs some help to be successful at Kentucky. And I think that's the gist of what he was saying.
Well, his job is so tough because it's like the Kansas job. And that guy out there, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's done one great job at Kansas.
Lance Leopold?
Yeah,
that's it.
Done one great job at Kansas this year. I saw a picture where they had Allen Fieldhouse absolutely packed for a pep session.
Yep.
Unbelievable. But that's all I got on that.
We're going to Brian?
Yeah, let's go. And I'll start with Keith. Keith was not able to make it tonight. He'll be back on Friday. However, I do want to mention that Coach Riley is finally getting into the Davidson Hall of Fame on Friday, so he won't be here. We're going to have Danielle coming. And congratulations, Coach. That's well-deserved.
Thank you.
And we're very happy for you, and we're very happy to have you with this organization. And I don't think I tell you and Keith that enough, but you guys kind of pull it all together. But we'll go with you,
Coach Riley.
I mean, how would I have ever got to talk to Rocky to become a part of this?
That's exactly right. And I've never got to talk to Coach Riley.
Or B, learned about euchre. I mean, I would have in the last month.
And now I know when I can get Pete Rose on the show with that date, because we can kind of pile it all in there on one show. But I'll start with Keith's top 5 in college. I'm going to go ahead and do Keith's college, my college, and then let you guys do your college, and then we'll reverse it for NFL. But Keith has Georgia number 1. Rocky, you're going to like this one. Keith has Ohio State Buckeyes number 2. He has Michigan number 3, and he keeps saying that their schedule. That's what he put out to the side. And then he's got Oklahoma 4, FSU 5. He's still not giving them credit. So Danielle, I'm going to let her attack him on his top 5 on Friday. He probably doesn't watch the show. So, but I've got Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2. I think until one of them loses, that's how I'm going to keep it. I've got Florida State number 3. I've got the Buckeyes of Ohio State number 4. And I've got a new one in Oklahoma. Brett Venables has done an awesome job there. So off to you, Rocky, with your top 5.
My top 5, I have the consensus Georgia at number 1. And my number 2 pick is Michigan. One of the reasons for that, I heard PJ Fleck, the coach I was talking about from Minnesota, he says that's the best football team he's went against in his coaching career. And that includes he's went against Ohio State a lot of times. But I had Michigan 2, Ohio State 3. And till they get a great quarterback, I know what McCord's done, but they'll be there, but they're got to lose. I have Florida State at number 4, and you guys are probably going to think I'm nuts on this one, but I have USC at number 5.
They could get beat Saturday. They could get beat Saturday.
A great quarterback. They play Notre Dame this week.
That's what I said. They could get beat.
I don't know about that.
Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, Florida State 4, and Oklahoma.
Well, you and Brian are on the Oklahoma kick.
Yep. Okay, let's go on.
I really like you, Rocky. I mean, I'm impressed with you. I knew I would be, but you knew the team you just put number 5 lost to Tulane last year. I mean, they lost to Tulane. The only time they came to this side of the Mississippi River, they got beat.
Coach Riley, that was last year.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
We're gonna speed this up here. I'm going with Keith's NFL. He's got the 49ers 1, Philly 2, Miami number 3, Kansas City Chiefs 4, Buffalo 5. My top 5 in the NFL that I really don't want to do is Philly, San Francisco, KC, because they have the referees helping them all year, is what I always get told on social media. Miami Dolphins, and then Detroit is coming in at number 5. Dan Campbell doing a great job. Rocky, who's your top 5?
Top pick is Philadelphia. I think they're a solid team. My second pick is San Francisco. I think they're good too. And both sides of the ball. Detroit is my third pick because I think, I'm praying for the Lions to have a great year. They've been down so many years. I'm praying for them. Number 4 is Kansas City, which I think is a good football team. You know, Mahomes makes them a good football team. And number 5 is another surprise for you guys. I'm going with Mike Tomlin and Pittsburgh Steelers.
And I just think that number 5 was just a shot at Brian.
Probably.
No.
I think that was personal.
Probably was.
Mine are the 49ers 1, the Eagles 2, the Chiefs 3, Dolphins 4, and the Lions number 5.
Coach, wait until I tell Marcy Godfrey that he put Pittsburgh over Baltimore. Rocky's going to be on Marcy's list.
Hey, Brian, you did not have Baltimore up there either, buddy.
No, but I didn't put anybody in the division ahead of them.
Yeah. I would have liked to have put the Bengals up there, but I can't right yet.
Good luck on that one. So, all right, Coach.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. We appreciate again, Rocky, the Crestline Comet, you being here tonight and sharing your wisdom. It's been a joy. Maybe one of these days we'll get to cross paths and look each other in the eye and shake hands.
We'll teach you euchre.
I'll learn a little euchre. There you go. got to give me a good teammate. Make sure I got a good teammate, and so I don't get too embarrassed or lose too much money. And again, and for all you listeners and viewers out there, social media, we're on everything. Follow us, like us. We're working hard. We're getting better and better and better, and we appreciate your support of the Unblocked Podcast Network. For Brian and Rocky Hall, see y'all.
See ya, Coach Rapp.